The first time my neighbor parked his fishing boat in my driveway, I wasn't even home to see it. I was halfway across the world wearing desert camo, sleeping in a canvas tent, and worrying about things much bigger than suburban property lines. But the moment I heard about it, I knew two things. One, the guy thought nobody would stop him. And two, he had no idea just how stubborn I could be. My name's Daniel Harper, but most people call me Dan. Back in 2021, I bought a small house just outside Millbrook, Ohio. Nothing fancy, just a quiet neighborhood with a couple of maple trees and houses that looked like they were built sometime in the late 70s, brown siding everywhere, long driveways that seemed to go on forever. The driveway was the reason I bought the place. It ran straight along the side of the house, long enough to fit my pickup work trailer and still leave room for a few friends to park when they came over for cookouts. I worked construction when I wasn't on active duty with the Army Reserve, so space mattered to me. Tools, ladders, compressors. My life was scattered with things that needed room. When I moved in, the neighborhood seemed friendly enough. People waved when you drove by. A couple of retirees walked their dogs every morning. Across the street, there was Carl and Linda, the older couple who brought over a plate of cookies the second week I was there. Everything felt normal. Then there was Russell. He lived next door, right on the right side of my house. Early 50s, maybe mid-50s, tall guy, always wearing sunglasses even when it wasn't sunny. The kind of guy who talked with a half smirk like he knew something you didn't. The first time we met, he leaned on the fence and asked, "You the new owner?" "Yeah," I said. He nodded toward my driveway and said, "That's a good stretch of concrete. Previous owner never used half of it." I laughed. "Well, I probably will." He shrugged like it didn't matter either way. At the time, nothing about that conversation felt important. Just two neighbors making small talk. 3 months later, I got deployment orders. It wasn't anything dramatic, just a long overseas assignment supporting logistics operations, but it meant I'd be gone for close to 8 months. Before I left, I asked my older brother Kyle if he could stop by the house every week, check the mail, start the truck, occasionally make sure nobody tried anything weird. Kyle said it wouldn't be a problem, so I left him to it. The first few months overseas were uneventful. Long days, a lot of dust, the usual deployment routine. Then one evening, about 4 months in, my phone buzzed while I was sitting outside the mess tent. It was Kyle. Now, when your brother calls you out of the blue while you're deployed, your mind automatically jumps to something bad. I answered, expecting news about the house or some emergency. Instead, he asked, "Hey, weird question. Do you own a boat?" I laughed. "You've known me my whole life, man. When have I ever owned a boat?" He paused, then said, "Well, there's one sitting in your driveway." That got my attention. "What kind of boat?" I asked. "Small fishing boat. Aluminum on a trailer." I pictured my empty driveway in my head, trying to imagine how something like that could just appear. Maybe one of my friends left it, but even as I said it, I knew that didn't make sense. None of my friends had boats. Kyle said, "That's what I thought at first. But it's been there all week." The moment he said that, I felt it. Something wasn't right. I asked, "Did you see who dropped it off?" "No," he said, "but I'm going to check the security cameras when I get home." I'd installed a couple of cameras on the garage when I moved in, just a habit from being gone so often. An hour later, Kyle called again, and this time he was laughing, but not a normal laugh. It was the kind where someone's seeing something ridiculous happen. "Guess who left it there?" he said. "Russell." For a moment, I didn't know what to say. "Wait, you're telling me he just parked it there?" "Yep," Kyle said. "And left." I had to process that for a second. I told Kyle, "Go talk to him. See what he says. Maybe it's a mistake." The next day, Kyle went over and knocked on Russell's door. Russell answered, holding a beer, looking mildly annoyed at being interrupted. Kyle explained that the house belonged to me, that I was deployed, and that the boat needed to be moved. Russell shrugged, saying it was just temporary. Kyle mentioned that the driveway wasn't public property, and Russell casually replied, "He's not even here." That was when I knew Russell wasn't just misunderstanding the situation. He didn't care. Kyle said those words to me on the phone that night, and as I stared at the dark desert horizon, I thought, that guy just made a mistake. Not a big one, but a mistake nonetheless. For the next couple of weeks, everything seemed fine. The boat disappeared, and I figured the issue was done. But then, one Saturday morning, I walked out with my coffee and nearly tripped over the same boat sitting square in the middle of my driveway. Same trailer, same dull gray hull, same spot. I stood there blinking, trying to process what I was seeing. After a few seconds, I set my coffee down and walked next door. Russell's house was one of those places that always seemed halfway between tidy and messy. Grass cut, but tools lying around a pickup truck parked in the yard. I knocked, and Russell answered with his usual half-smirk. I said, "Yeah, I see your boat's back." He glanced toward my driveway and casually said, "Oh yeah. Just parked it there for a couple of days." I was calm. I told him, "Russell, that's my driveway." He shrugged again. "You've got plenty of space." That was when I realized something. He didn't think he was doing anything wrong. To him, my driveway was just another piece of real estate. I wasn't looking for a fight, but I needed him to understand. I said, "Look, I need that space. You can't leave it there." Russell sighed dramatically. "Fine, I'll move it tonight." And to his credit, he did. The next day, the boat was gone. Except the following weekend, it came back. Same place, same boat. This time, I didn't even grab coffee. I walked straight to Russell's door and knocked. He answered, looking annoyed. I pointed behind me. "Seriously?" He rubbed the back of his neck and muttered, "Just for the weekend." "Yeah, well, marina storage is full. Not my problem." He gave me that same smirk, and I realized he wasn't misunderstanding me. He just didn't care. So I nodded, slowly turned, and walked back to my house. Russell probably thought he won that round. But what he didn't know was that I had just made a decision. I wasn't going to ask him again. The next Monday, I called a tow truck. I had a trailer in my driveway. It didn't belong to me, and I wasn't going to let it stay. I called Millbrook Tow. "Millbrook Tow, how can I help you? I've got a trailer parked in my driveway. It's not mine." The dispatcher asked if it was blocking access. "No, but it's parked in my driveway." She asked, "Do you want it removed?" I said yes. About 40 minutes later, a tow truck pulled up. The driver took one look, laughed, and hooked up the boat trailer. It was gone in under 5 minutes. A few hours later, there was a knock on my door. I knew who it was. Russell. He stood there furious, demanding to know where his boat was. I leaned against the doorframe and said, "Pounded a place where the towing company stores vehicles." He muttered something under his breath and walked off. That, I thought, was the end of it. But no, it wasn't. 2 weeks later, I came home and saw the boat sitting halfway down my driveway. I didn't even knock on Russell's door this time. I just grabbed my phone and called Millbrook Tow again. Same driver, same truck, same boat. I realized something around removal number 10. Russell wasn't learning. Every time he parked the boat there, it left. Every time it left, he paid for it. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to fight. I just made a phone call, and that was enough. It was a system, and systems work. The boat kept coming back, and I kept calling. By the time it was winter, Russell was paying a lot of money for his stubbornness. By the time we hit removal number 21, I wasn't even surprised anymore. I knew the drill. Mike, the driver, would just shake his head, hook up the boat, and pull it away, all while Russell fumed on his property. Finally, one day it stopped. The boat didn't come back. But then a few weeks later, Russell had a new driveway poured. Brand new concrete stretched down the side of his house, wide enough for a truck and boat trailer. And that was the end of it. I saw him park the boat there for the first time, sitting perfectly in his own space. I just leaned against my truck and laughed. Problem solved. Now it's been almost a year. Russell and I don't talk much. We're not enemies, but we don't exactly exchange pleasantries either. And honestly, that's fine with me. Because sometimes the best victories are the quiet ones. No shouting, no revenge, just patience. So here's my question to you. If you were in my shoes, how many times would you have called the tow company? Would you have stopped after the first warning, the 5th removal, the 10th? Or would you have done exactly what I did and let the system run its course to the very end? Let me know in the comments, and be honest. Because neighborhood disputes like this happen everywhere, and everyone seems to have a different idea of where patience ends and where justice begins.